I used to think I'd hit the jackpot dating Luke. He worked in strategic analysis at Omnicorp, one of Boston's tech giants, smart, calm, collected, the kind of guy who seemed destined for corner offices and hefty stock options. Me? I was in internal governance. Not glamorous, but I had clearance. I saw the sensitive stuff, the budgets, the strategy shifts, the whispers of acquisitions long before they hit the newswires. And Luke, well, Luke climbed the ladder fast. Shockingly fast. Especially after he'd, casually, ask me about some seemingly innocent detail over dinner, a budget allocation here, a potential market fluctuation there. I trusted him, implicitly, until the night I saw him across the candlelit glow of La Mere. Hand in hand with her. Rebecca Sloan, his boss. The ink barely dry on his promotion to vice president. And just days after he'd told me he loved me. Our story started, ironically enough, at a fintech conference downtown. Luke had this way about him, witty, attentive, making me feel like I was the only person in a crowded room. He listened, really listened, or so I thought. We kept things quiet. Company policy frowned on interdepartmental relationships, especially ones with a potential power imbalance. Even if indirect, Luke was always quick to agree. I don't want anyone thinking I'm using you. He'd murmur, tracing patterns on my hand. You know, for your access or anything. I'd laughed then, reassured by his supposed integrity. How naive. Looking back, it's painfully clear, my access, my information, wasn't just something he might be accused of wanting. It was the only thing he wanted. Every conversation, every shared coffee, every late-night call circled back, subtly, inevitably, to the company's inner workings. He'd frame it as curiosity, as wanting to understand my world, help me see the bigger picture. He'd plead, his eyes earnest. What's the real temperature on the third floor these days? He never asked for specifics. Not directly. He was too smart for that. He'd ask about trends, about departmental moods, about the implications of recent leadership shuffles. He collected fragments, piecing together a mosaic of proprietary knowledge he wasn't supposed to have. And I, blinded by affection and the carefully constructed illusion of shared ambition, handed him the tiles one by one. He painted a picture of us as a power couple, rising through the ranks together, albeit discreetly for now. He spoke of shared futures, of a time when we wouldn't have to hide. It was intoxicating. He knew exactly which buttons to push, my desire for partnership, my professional pride, my quiet ambition. He played me like a violin, and I mistook the melody for love. Last September, things escalated. A highly confidential report landed on my desk, details of Omnicorp's planned acquisition of a small, innovative software firm based in Montreal. It was a game-changer. A strategic move kept under tight wraps. Only a handful of people knew the full scope. That evening, curled up on my couch, Luke casually draped an arm around me. You know, he started, swirling the wine in his glass. I've been thinking about market expansion. Canada seems like low-hanging fruit, doesn't it? Especially Quebec? My blood ran cold for a split second. Coincidence? He couldn't possibly know. I deflected, offering a vague smile and a non-committal shrug. Maybe, I murmured, changing the subject. But the seed of doubt was planted. A few weeks later, the internal buzz was palpable. Luke's department had submitted a strategic proposal. Not just any proposal, but one that uncannily mirrored the acquisition strategy detailed in that confidential report. It was lauded as insightful, bold, prescient. Whispers of a promotion for Luke started circulating. The gnawing suspicion I'd tried to bury clawed its way to the surface. I started noticing things. The way Luke's questions had become more pointed, more specific in the weeks leading up to the proposal. The late nights he claimed were spent crunching numbers, That coincided with periods when sensitive data was being accessed internally, data I had clearance for. Then came the little changes in him. The slight withdrawal, the clipped phone calls, the excuses for why he couldn't stay over. He blamed stress, the pressure of the potential promotion. I tried to believe him. But the chill I felt wasn't just the Boston autumn air. It was the dawning, gut-wrenching realization that the man I loved, the man I had trusted with my heart and, inadvertently, with my professional integrity, was pulling away. He wasn't just using my information anymore, he was detaching, preparing for his next move. And it didn't involve me. It involved her, Rebecca Sloan, Director of Market Development, the woman whose signature was needed to approve his ascent, the woman he was now having candlelit dinners with. The picture arrived anonymously in my work inbox. A grainy cell phone shot. Time stamped the previous Tuesday night. Luke and Rebecca Sloan, heads close together, hands intertwined across a small table at La Mare, a ridiculously expensive French place in the Back Bay. His thumb was stroking her knuckles. Her smile was blindingly triumphant. There was no explosion of rage. No frantic tears. Just a sudden, chilling calm. A cold wave washed over me, extinguishing the last embers of hurt and leaving behind something sharp. Focused. Ice. I actually let out a small, quiet laugh. The kind that bubbles up when the absurdity of a situation hits you full force. He hadn't just used me, he'd played the long game. Leveraging my trust for his ambition. Only to discard me for the woman who held the keys to his ultimate prize. Okay, Luke. Okay, Rebecca. Game on. My mind, usually occupied with compliance checks and internal audits, shifted gears. The skills I used to protect the company, I would now use to protect myself and expose them. No more tears. No more naive trust. Just strategy. I started digging, quietly, methodically, during off hours, using my own devices, leaving no trace within Omnicorp's systems. The promotion. Who exactly signed off on Luke's accelerated promotion? Was Rebecca the sole approver? Or were others involved? Did protocol require multiple signatures? The emails. I couldn't access their accounts directly, obviously, but I could search the general company archives for any communication between them that might have slipped through the cracks. Any meeting requests. Any project discussions that seemed overly familiar or referenced non-public information. I looked for patterns, for timelines that overlapped suspiciously with Luke's sudden insights. The access logs. This was the trickiest part. Luke often worked late at my apartment, using my personal laptop while I made dinner or caught up on reading. He always claimed Omnicorp's remote connection was faster from my place. Had he used my credentials? My network? Could I trace login times from my home IP address to sensitive company servers he shouldn't have had access to? It took weeks of painstaking work, cross-referencing calendars, searching archived email headers, requesting anonymized system access reports under the guise of a routine security audit parameter check, something within my purview. And then, the pieces clicked into place. A late-night login to the M&A strategy folder from my home IP address. Coinciding with the night Luke was supposedly pulling an all-nighter at my place. An email from Rebecca to our, overriding a standard waiting period for Luke's promotion eligibility, citing his exceptional and timely strategic contributions. A string of overly familiar messages between them, disguised as work collaboration, referencing inside jokes and dinner plans. It painted a picture not just of an affair, but of calculated corporate espionage fueled by ambition and facilitated by betrayal. They hadn't just broken my heart, they had compromised the company. My first instinct was to storm into our, slap the evidence on the table, and watch the fallout, or maybe confront Luke directly. Unleash the torrent of anger and hurt I'd kept dammed up inside. But that wasn't strategy. That was emotion. And emotion wouldn't win this game. Making a scene would make me look compromised, unstable. It could even backfire, painting me as a scorned lover seeking revenge, potentially jeopardizing my own position. No, this required finesse, precision, anonymity. I compiled everything into a single, meticulously organized digital file. The timeline, a detailed chronology mapping their relationship against Luke's promotions and his access to sensitive information I held. Dates, times, locations, cross-referenced with company milestones and data access points. The emails, copies of the internal communications demonstrating Rebecca's clear bias and preferential treatment towards Luke. Her specific push for his promotion, timed perfectly after his brilliant proposal based on the stolen acquisition data. The logs, the smoking gun, system access logs showing logins to restricted servers from my home IP address during times Luke was present. Correlated with the specific sensitive files related to the Canadian acquisition and other strategic initiatives he'd suddenly become an expert on. This proved unauthorized access, directly linking him to the information theft. I didn't send it to our. I didn't leak it to the press. I bypassed the usual channels entirely. Instead, I submitted it through the company's anonymous ethics hotline, a secure third-party service designed for reporting major compliance breaches. I framed it purely as a concern about potential conflict of interest and data security violations, focusing entirely on the professional misconduct and the risk to the company. My name, my relationship with Luke, none of it was mentioned. I was just a concerned employee fulfilling my duty. The report landed like a silent bomb. 2 weeks passed. An unnerving quiet settled over the office, the kind that precedes a storm. Then, subtle signs, closed-door meetings on the executive floor, quiet visits from external auditors, IT personnel working late, examining server logs with unusual intensity. 3 weeks after I submitted the report, I received a call from an unfamiliar internal number. It was Amelia Hayes, one of Omnicorp's senior corporate counsels. Her voice was low, discreet. We received an anonymous report containing some troubling allegations. She said carefully, "The information provided has been instrumental in uncovering a serious conflict of interest and potential breaches of data security protocols. The internal investigation is proceeding. Thank you for bringing this matter to the appropriate channels." Click. No questions asked. No identity sought. Just acknowledgement. The wheels were turning. The fallout was swift, decisive, and brutal, executed with the cold efficiency Omnicorp reserved for existential threats. Luke was suspended first, pending the outcome of the investigation. Then, escorted out of the building by security a week later, termination effective immediately. The official reason cited was violation of the company's code of conduct and data security policies. No mention of the affair. Just the cold, hard facts of his professional transgressions. His ambition had carried him high, but his methods ensured the fall was precipitous. Rebecca Sloan faced a different, arguably more devastating, fate. Omnicorp didn't just fire her, they filed a civil lawsuit against her, seeking damages for breach of fiduciary duty and conflict of interest. Her reputation, meticulously crafted over years, shattered overnight. All her unvested stock options, her golden parachute, vaporized. The company wasn't just punishing her, they were making an example of her. Through it all, I remained silent. I didn't gloat. I didn't gossip. I didn't post cryptic statuses online. I just did my job, kept my head down, and watched the inevitable unfold from the quiet vantage point of internal governance. Friends offered condolences about Luke. Assuming a simple breakup, I accepted their sympathy with a quiet nod. There was a certain satisfaction, clean and sharp, in seeing justice served without having to utter a single vengeful word myself. They had underestimated me, seen me only as a pawn in their game. They never realized I understood the board better than they did. Sometimes, the most powerful move isn't a fiery confrontation or a public takedown. Sometimes, revenge is a dish best served cold, anonymously, and with irrefutable evidence. You just have to be patient, observant, and know exactly when, and how, to make your final, decisive play. The truth, as they say, has a way of coming out. You just need to give it the right push. This is Revenger Ruby. If you enjoyed this story of calculated payback, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss the next tale of sweet, sweet revenge.